amazing. Unbelievably amazing. We all knew it was going to happen. We all knew this was going to be an issue. We all knew it would play out exactly as I said it would. We are one day away from the Duskbloods premiering exclusively on Nintendo Switch 2 through the beta network test, right? One day away from this game being shown to the public, and there is no enthusiasm at all. Nobody cares. You can go on 4chan right now, and it's all just a bunch of people seething. You can go on Twitter right now, it's all just a bunch of people seething. Like, Nintendo fans are too busy playing Splatoon Raiders and Yoshi and the Mysterious Book to care about the Duskbloods. The simple fact of the matter is, we have so much going on. We have so many things to do, so many things to play, that the Duskbloods isn't even a blip on our radar. We kept seeing people crying about not having a big Switch 2 exclusive, and I think that's very telling, because the Duskbloods was always slated for a 2026 release. We always knew it was coming this year. We always knew this was a FromSoft exclusive for Nintendo Switch 2, and yet we didn't see a single person ever be excited for this game or hype it up at all. And this just goes to show you just how fake and gay the entire FromSoft community actually was. Because we saw, how Elden Ring got no momentum on Switch 2. We saw how Bloodborne was hyped up. We saw the failures of Dark Souls 2 and 3, right? We saw the failures of Night Rain. We saw people try and say Armored Core 6 was going to be Game of the Year. Okay? Like, the era of pretending that FromSoft is some top-tier developer is over, right? And it ends now. Now that they're producing a high-budget Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive, there is no reason for the industry to rally behind the game anymore. Elden Ring was only hyped up the way it was in order to downplay the far superior Nintendo games that were coming out around that time. Games like Tears of the Kingdom, games like Echoes of Wisdom, games like Bayonetta 3, games like Metroid Prime 4, games like Donkey Kong Bonanza, games like Mario Kart World, games like Princess Peach Showtime. Okay? There have been so many better Nintendo exclusives than Elden Ring over the past 5 years that I can't even really keep track of them all, okay? Elden Ring was not only nothing special, it's not even worth picking up. It's coming out on Nintendo Switch 2 this week, I think. No, it's next week. Next week, Elden Ring's launching on Switch 2. Not a single person cares, okay? Duskbloods is getting its release on Switch 2. Nobody cares. Because the fundamental issue with these games is that they're not very good. Okay, nobody actually likes anything FromSoft has ever done. Nobody cares about them. They're not popular. They're not successful. They don't play well. They don't have a cult following. The only reason that people glazed these games the way they did was that they seriously, genuinely believed that this would be the franchise that would destroy Nintendo, specifically Zelda and Metroid, okay? Because I remember that's how Dark Souls was promoted 15 years ago, was that, it was what Zelda should be, that it was, a combat-focused, grimdark RPG, for adults, for, grown men. That was the idea behind it. That was the narrative, that Dark Souls was just so much better than Skyward Sword. And not only was that not true, Nintendo has consistently demonstrated time and time again just how much better they are than everything FromSoft has ever put out. Simply by comparing Dark Souls 2 to A Link Between Worlds, you see the level of quality and the difference. Breath of the Wild compared to Elden Ring is kind of crazy. It's just kind of shocking how the entire industry rallied behind this generic, glitchy, low frame rate, ugly looking berserk knockoff Dark Souls, as opposed to talking about all the far superior, more difficult games that are out there. Games like Bayonetta 3, games like Ninja Gaiden 4, games like I think even Devil May Cry is probably harder than this slot. You look at The Wonderful 101, there are just so many other better games out there than this. And I do think it's very interesting, how people are addressing this now, because a lot of people are pointing out the fact that, like, wait a minute, Bloodborne was hyped up for a long time as being one of the best games of all time and one of the best games ever made, and yet now that we're getting a sequel, nobody's excited for it. And the reason for that is because Bloodborne was a PlayStation exclusive, while Duskbloods is a Nintendo exclusive. So what you're seeing is people glazing the Bloodborne for being a PlayStation exclusive, while downplaying the Nintendo exclusive. That's all this is. There's nothing really more to it than that. You can't argue that Bloodborne is a better game than the Duskbloods, because the Duskbloods hasn't come out yet. We don't know anything about it. And I have no enthusiasm for the Duskbloods at all. I've been very consistent on this, is that there's a very good chance that I don't even pick this game up. Okay, I might very well just play the beta test, review that, and then just kind of denounce the IP as a whole, because I don't want this to continue. It is my thing. Like, I gave Dark Souls a shot, 10 years ago, right? Finished the first game twice, didn't like it. If you're anywhere near the level of a gamer that I am, you've played like dozens of harder games than this. You've played Ninja Gaiden, you've played like Sin and Punishment, you've played like better games than this, essentially. Like, Dark Souls is just an IP that blew up because of fads, okay? It was just a fad, and now the fad is over, and people just don't know what to do with themselves. Like, they just have this mindset that, like, I said I would support everything FromSoft did, but this is a Nintendo game. That's completely different. Like, we are legit seeing in real time the narrative fall apart, that FromSoft is just too much for Nintendo to handle. A lot of people were even saying that, like, the Switch 2 couldn't run Elden Ring, which is obviously retarded if you think about it for 2 seconds. But, like that was the angle they were going with. So now we're going to see, like, that entire narrative kind of fall apart. And like with Platinum Games before it, like, we're going to see the entire company, the entire, like, religious fervor that surrounds them, at least in regards to the online gaming community, just completely collapse. Like, nobody is going to be able to say that Duskbloods has a flawless record, that they're the best developer ever, when they have this on their record, is that thing. Like, this is going to be a big thing around that movement going forward, is that, like, oh yeah, I play everything that FromSoft put out, except the Duskbloods. Like, you're going to see a lot of that, like, in the next, like, couple of years or so. And like, I feel like people are just really going to start noticing. Like, it really is the Bayonetta 2 situation all over again. And what happened with Bayonetta 2 is that, like, the culture in gaming, like, shifted so dramatically over the past decade that, like, what we ended up getting was, like, radically different than, like, the idea initially, right, with Bayonetta 2 was that, like, Nintendo can't handle mature games. This is taking away games from the other real platforms. This is going to destroy the brand. We got like three games out of that Nintendo exclusivity deal. Like, Bayonetta only survives as an IP because of that. And after that, Nintendo kind of like, started getting more third-party games. They started doing more partnerships. They still work with Platinum Games. Like, we have like all those examples of that. But like, objectively, it was a good thing for both Nintendo and Platinum Games, but what it was bad for was the image of the community. The Bayonetta community hyped themselves up on this idea that this was a title that would never, ever, ever, ever come to Nintendo consoles, and to this day, a lot of them have never actually played Bayonetta 2, and especially not 3. Like, it's just kind of amazing to see, like, how many of these people are sticking to their guns and just refusing to support any Nintendo-related, like, Platinum Games projects. And we're going to see, like, the same thing with FromSoft. Like, we're going to see, like, the same kind of stubborn refusal to support this game. And unlike with Bayonetta 2, I don't expect this is going to be good. But, like, this very well may be, like, the killing blow to the narrative that Nintendo can't handle third-party games, that they can't handle mature games, that they won't support mature games. Like, this might be the end of that narrative. Like, this is the end result of you glazing Elden Ring the way you did, of insisting that it was never going to come to Switch, that it was better than everything on Switch, that it was a masterpiece, a 10 out of 10 game, the game of the decade, people were saying, until this was announced. Like, this is how it ends, like, with a Nintendo exclusive. Not because Elden Ring got worse, because you are no longer in a position in which you can weaponize this game against Nintendo. You know, if a Nintendo fan is just inevitably going to play both Elden Ring and Zelda, and inevitably every reasonable person is going to come to the correct conclusion that Zelda is better. There's just no getting around that. So, with Elden Ring on the same platform as the Nintendo exclusives, with Switch having all these third-party games, the third-party games are no longer going to be able to compete. And we're going to see more and more instances like this, where a 10 out of 10 masterpiece comes out on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, you know, is glazed by the industry, and then inevitably Nintendo swoops in, funds the sequel, gets an exclusive on Nintendo Switch 2 or other platforms, and then, like, the entire community just kind of, you know, falls apart because of it. You know, because the game's going to do well, but if it's not going to be weaponized against Nintendo, it functionally serves no purpose, you know, for what they're interested in. Like, and that's what we're seeing with FromSlop now, is that they have gone from, like, industry darling to a nobody in, like, record time, only because they chose to partner with Nintendo. And I feel like a lot of people are really, really, truly going to struggle with that reality.